Hey there, B.R. Griffin here, videographer and award-winning photographer. Today we're going to talk about star photography just real briefly. I'm also going to leave a description in the link below. I said that backwards, and I did, yeah. We're going to leave a link in the description where you can download a free checklist for star photography, so that'll just be in the description, and it really will be this time. I know sometimes YouTubers say it's in the description and it's hard to find it. It's there. Check the first comment as well. It's probably there too. This is just basic star photography. This is going out, setting up your camera, using a wide angle lens, and just taking pictures of the Milky Way, right? And so pre-production, just make sure your batteries are charged, format your cards, set your focus. So what you're gonna wanna do is find something really far away, set your focus, and then make sure at that point you're changing to manual, and then try not to touch your focus, right? Now, granted, when you're putting this in the bag and taking it out, sometimes you might bump your focus ring a little bit. And for some reason, this is my zoom ring. This is the focus ring. So you might bump it. You want to set it to infinity. Once you're there, you can get it to make sure those stars are a pinpoint and not a little fuzzy ball. Just kind of get it, as in focus as you can. But setting it in the daytime is just going to help you get there a little easier. And then I recommend, buying you can buy a really cheap remote shutter. I think I spent less than $10 for mine. That was a few years back, but I would imagine they're at least under $20. And there are fancier ones you can get for $30, $40 where it's wireless. I have one of those too, but I honestly, most of the time I just use my cable one. It's just easy, plug it in, click, ready to go. It doesn't need any batteries. If you don't have that and you don't want to dish out the money, I understand. Most cameras actually have a built-in timer, so you can find that in your settings, and you can do a 10-second timer, usually a 3-second timer. You usually have both those options. I would go with 3 seconds so you're not standing around waiting. So what you do is you set it for 3 seconds, click the button, let go of your camera, don't touch it, don't bump it. Even the tiniest vibrations can ruin your shot. So just press it, let go, 3 seconds later, it's gonna take your picture and then wait for it to finish taking the photo. You're gonna wanna remember a tripod. Very important, again, for the same reason. You don't want it to be shaking. A sturdy tripod and a tripod plate. You do not want to forget the plate. You could have everything packed, and if you forget the plate, it's tough luck. I also recommend a flashlight or a headlamp. I've got a little headlamp that's red and only red. That way it doesn't bother other people around me. It's not gonna, the white light can really affect your eyes and make it hard for you to adjust. The red is usually a pretty safe color to go with. You're gonna wanna set your camera to manual. And if that's a little bit intimidating, I also have this cheat sheet that goes over the settings briefly and what the different numbers will do. And I also have a course that's in development right now, designed for beginners. It goes over all of this and makes it easy to understand. Click the link in the description. That'll take you to a page to sign up for my newsletter. You'll be able to download these for free as PDFs. And then you'll also be notified. I don't spam your inbox. Every once in a while I'll send out an email to say, hey, we got a new checklist, or we've got this new course available, or a sale going on. But this will help out a little bit. But that's also the point of this checklist, just to make things simple for you. So set the camera to manual, set your camera to live view so you can be able to see exactly what's going on. Open your aperture wide. We want to get as much light as possible. Yes, that's going to make a shallow depth of field, but we're only really focusing on one plane, and that's the far distant sky, okay? So again, though, it's gonna be important to make sure you are in focus. There's nothing worse than thinking you've got an incredible photo of the stars and then taking it back and it's out of focus. A lot of times, in most of these checklists, I say to keep your ISO low. Start low and bump your way up. For this, we're gonna start high. We're gonna start at about 1600, and then if needed, bump it up to 3200 or higher. It's gonna introduce a lot of noise, and that can be a little frustrating, but you can usually get away with that a little bit more with star photography. Star photography is also known as astrophotography, but astrophotography includes a whole range of things. So sometimes you might hear me call it astrophotography, and other times you might hear me call it star photography. When I'm talking about star photography, I'm specifically talking about taking photos of the stars, right? It's a subcategory within astrophotography. ISO 1600 to 3200, again, check focus. Adjust white balance. A lot of times cameras do pretty good with auto white balance, but I find that changing your white balance for star photography, it's an important thing because you can get the the deeper blues and the kind of that darker color if you intentionally set your white balance. So I like to try to get around 4,000 Kelvin. If you don't know what that means, that's fine. It's just in your white balance settings, usually you can change it to a temperature, so 4,000 K, that's what we're looking for. Of course, white balance is always depends on your environment and what's going on, so you may need to put that up a little higher, you may need to put it down lower, you may just like it at a different color temperature. Again, these checklists are guides. They're basic guides that tells you kind of what to do in most scenarios, but ultimately you're gonna have to decide what's right for you, both because of your environment and also because of your creative style. You're gonna wanna select your shutter speed next, so we're talking about 10 seconds to 30 seconds. You can go online and use a calculator to figure out how your camera, your lens, what the ideal time is, because the Earth is rotating, and as it spins, you may look up at the stars and it's imperceptible, but they are moving ever so slightly, and after 15, 20, 25 seconds, they're gonna start to motion blur. Even if you're in focus, because they're moving while your shutter is open, it's gonna draw a little bit of a line across your sky. And of course, if you keep it open too long, you'll see star trails. So keep that in mind. You don't want it too long, but you need it to be long enough that you can see, that enough light is coming into your lens and hitting your sensor to see stars. And that's why we have our aperture open to get more light in. We've bumped up our ISO so it's more sensitive to light, and then we're opening our shutter long because it is dark out there. So that's how you get photos of stars. Again, I recommend plugging in a remote trigger so that you can hit it without bumping your camera, or alternatively you can use the timer. Now, another thing to do is I recommend finding some interesting foreground. Going away from the city where it's dark, and then finding an interesting foreground such as trees, or maybe an old building like a barn, or framing the mountains a certain way. You could even take a flashlight, one with a white light, and paint the tree with it as you're taking your photo, and that'll light up your foreground while you're taking photos of the stars. And then take your photo. Test, test, test. Try different settings, try different locations. And then this checklist also talks about if you want to do a time lapse. The best way to do a time lapse is to have an intervalometer. A lot of cameras now have them built in. My camera has a built-in intervalometer. You can also buy them externally. And if you're really going into astrophotography and your camera doesn't have one, I would consider an intervalometer for time-lapse photography. You can also program it to use it as a trigger. In that case, you wouldn't have to buy a trigger and an intervalometer. So for instance, let's say you want a 10-second video. And you might think that's kind of short, but time lapses that go longer than 10 seconds, people lose interest in those fast. So you don't really want one much longer than that. A lot of times you want them shorter, but I like getting 10 seconds because I can always cut that down shorter. If I get 2 seconds and realize that's way too short, nothing I can do about that. Can't make it longer. I guess with AI maybe you can nowadays, but you get what I'm saying. We don't want to do this AI, we want to do this the old-fashioned way. So let's say you want a 10-second video, times that by 24 frames per second. That's one of the most common frame rates. So that would be 240 photos. And then if you're doing 20-second exposures, 20-second shutter speeds for each of those, that's 80 minutes. That's almost an hour and a half of shooting. And that's assuming that it takes the next photo right after. A lot of times your camera needs a few moments to process right after it takes the photo, so it could go a little bit longer. It could be closer to an hour and a half when it's all said and done. Another tip that it's not actually on here, so here, for free tip, is bring a friend. Have somebody to talk to. Bring snacks, as long as you're not camping and gonna get mauled by a bear or something. That would be good. But I like having somebody else there too, because you talk, you're loud, usually keeps the animals away, usually. Except for one occasion when we were out in the sand dunes and we thought people were out partying because there was people out earlier, and then we realized those aren't human noises, those are like coyotes or something, and then we could hear them all around us, and we thought we need to go, so we packed up the camera and we took off running. It was my girlfriend at the time, she's now my wife. We took off running, and it was too smoky anyway, so none of those photos really turned out. Yeah, it was back in my college days. We have a good story now, and it was a fun time, even though we almost got attacked by wild animals. Don't do that. I should have included that on there. You might have to write this one in: don't get attacked by wild animals. Did you hear that? It's a wild bird. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. I know it's getting dark. You might not be able to see me very well anymore. So go ahead and click the link in the description. You can sign up for my newsletter and get access to a free PDF download of this checklist. And you'll be notified of my new course. It's designed for beginners who want to learn all the settings, ISO, aperture, shutter speed, and so forth, and then who want to just dive into long exposure photography, like taking photos of waterfalls, fireworks, still wool photography, star photography, and much, much more. So I'll keep you posted on that. And don't forget to check out my video here about waterfall photography.